At the turn of the millennium, CDs and DVDs served the function that the internet served today. The internet was just developing. It was in its early stages, and there was hardly any well-formed content on it. It was just a big mess of data around 2000, and CDs, DVDs were the main way data was transported, distributed to people, and you got everything on them: movies, video games, software, lessons, school lessons, and music. Of course, we can't forget about music. So around the year exactly at the year 2000, I started university. That was the year of my university, and but before starting, I developed a sort of dysfunction. I discovered the pirate sites, and I became obsessed with just downloading. I can't remember what I downloaded, but I'm pretty sure it was mostly video games and software. I never downloaded movies. I wasn't into them, but also I downloaded the music, and that was my main focus pre-entering university, rather than focus on preparing. I figured I would just deal with the knowledge gathering and the information. I figured I was capable of just getting the knowledge and the intelligence in real time. When the time came, I figured I was good enough, smart enough to do such a thing, because I did okay in my high school years. I could easily learn the material, well, most of the time in high school, although I admitted to myself I lacked some language comprehension skills. That grammar was really difficult to understand for me, and I also recognized I needed some work on grasping what's that math thing called? Geometrics. So, and my main focus was on math, so I bought a whole bunch of CDs to teach me math so I can refresh my math knowledge and learn what I lacked over there at that time. Probably the same today. They just get you through the system, whether you're good at a particular subject or not. They'll just push you through, pass you. And I got into a good university, the University of Ryerson. So right at the turn of the millennium, the year 2000 was the year I was gonna enter university. But there was something stirring up, something exciting, and something I couldn't put aside. I couldn't suppress my emotions, my excitement about it. During high school, I had to subdue my passions so I could do the homework, schoolwork, whatever. And I felt shorted somehow. I felt like I've been withheld a lot because I want to be good at school, and so I decided to deny myself a lot of things I was curious about, a lot of pleasures and other things, so I can consume the prescribed lessons and prescribed knowledge structures at school. And so I decided I had enough. I want to experience life, the real world. I wanted to pursue my own path, and I want a piece of this exciting thing that was developing, which was the internet. And so I completely absorbed myself in the internet, and I tended to gravitate towards the gathering of data because I recognized even back then that data was wealth and power. So I spent all my time, waking hours, spare time, even the hours I should have invested in schoolwork, doing chores or whatever, exercise, everything. I became obsessed with the gathering of data through pirate sites where they made all data freely available. And I felt I was getting one over everyone else by gathering all this content, precious material from the internet, and I was enriching myself. Indeed, I probably downloaded $15,000 to $20,000 worth of content during that time. And mind you, the internet was very slow back then. It wasn't really fast. Maybe I can't exactly recall the speeds. I think it was 128 kilobits. Kilobits, yeah. And yeah, so to download anything of a substantial size, it would take at least 12 hours, half a day to a day, and sometimes less, because back then things weren't that big in terms of byte size. But I did accumulate a lot of things, but that's all I did with it, just gather it. I became a data gatherer, and I stored them on a bunch of CDs, rewritable CDs, made my own casings for them with using paper. I think I have an example here, like so. Maybe not. I know I have some of my own CDs here. I guess I don't. I threw most of them out. Here's example of the cover I made for these, because you cannot find them easily. They would sell you the CDs bare without any cover, just a stack of CDs, and I would just store them on rewritable CDs, and I had a whole bunch, 5-foot stack full of CDs. Maybe I'm exaggerating a bit, but I had a lot of CDs, and you know, I felt after a while, after getting over it, eventually I started feeling guilty in time. But at first I was very happy. You know, I thought I'd made a big accomplishment, that I had all these things I could consume, all the software I can dream of, all the video games, you know. I felt content owning all of them. But come university, I did very poorly, and you know, I felt like a personal failure. I just my focus couldn't go to my schoolwork, my university. I just wasn't into it. You know, at that time I started developing software. I started programming, and my main passion was programming and not to study, learn things. So I tended to just go to school for the sake of it. Yeah, I wanted my brain to take care of the schoolwork without me putting any effort. Unfortunately, that's not how it works, and I really wanted just to program and resent my life, resent having to go to university, sit and watch the Waltons old 70s shows, Starsky and Hutch, reminisce about the 70s and those family values days, those country days. The Waltons, that show was on reruns, and the Beverly Hillbillies. I was really into those 70s shows, and I got a real kick about them. I started liking those shows a lot, liking that era, liking the values they had back then. Of course, it was all the delusion. It was all make-believe. Nothing it is what it seems to be on TV. And so you just can't trust what they show you on TV. It's just your imagination. The real world is much different. But back then I became obsessed with entering the real world, and with my programming, after stopping the addiction to the downloading of data, I turned to programming, and because I realized that my TV addiction wasn't productive, it wasn't helping me in life whatsoever. I stopped watching all sort of content, video content, cold turkey, zero, no TV, no movies, no nothing. So that's how it turned out, and I had to get CDs for my work. I also stopped listening to music, but I did get some CDs, music CDs, because of my Starsky and Hutch passion at that time, just before stopping it. And I got some holiday CDs, because who doesn't like to? I turned eventually to gospel. I tried to find something less corrupting, something more enhancing, personal, developing, and I got gospel. I turned to gospel. I got black gospel music mostly. That's what I was into. I tried to go into classical music, but you can only stand so much of that piano and stuff. It's once you taste today's music, it's hard to go back to the centuries of old. And yeah, lots of gospel, some country gospel. I got just hundreds of praise songs, this collection here, and that's what I turned to. And then I also had to get software for my programming so I can develop programs on, and those things cost thousands of dollars. I was able to get some at a good price on eBay, and they were genuine. And then video games. I dabbled in video games occasionally. It's PC video games, and that was unproductive way to spend your time. I felt so it was addicting, but it too was not an ideal way or a very good way to spend time, I believe, because emotionally it is stressing, and it's just addicting. It just causes a lot of emotional issues, and it just removes you from yourself, and it kind of like possesses you. That video game is a source of possession, takes you away from the real world. If you're not in the real world, what's the use of living? So I'm not I don't mean to put down video games. I'm sure it's there's a time and place for it, for everyone to experience, but to develop an addiction to it is very unhealthy. Some I got with other, just passed down. Sometimes we found PCs left over. This was from a tenant in my brother's house. They left a PC there. They had back rent, and this too. Lots of lessons, SATI, things I wanted to help develop my intellect before entering university, but here's tests I want to put myself through so I could prepare for university. But like I say, I had enough of learning, of the just being data storage for societal institutions. Yeah, I just wanted to be in the real world. Here I have a sort of passion for Romeo and Juliet. This one I think is a good movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, but I think all Romeo and Juliet movies are good. Here, David Soul, I got his music. The reason I talk the way I do with this low voice, because of him. What's his name again? David Soul, yeah, that's him. When I seen him in Starsky and Hutch, I admired his deep voice. I thought it was fantastic, sexy, cool. Yeah, the ideal voice for a man. So I used to have a squeaky voice, a voice that annoyed me like hell. But when I started watching this, I realized his voice was something I want to imitate. So I tried to imitate his voice, and I think I regret doing that. I can't go back to my squeaky voice. I have this deep voice now, and like him, I think I try to imitate it as closely as possible. And I don't know. I think I got close. Maybe you can't tell on the recording, but I think I came pretty close to imitating David Soul's voice on Starsky and Hutch. And he was my role model at that time. He was big, tall. I'm not tall, but he was cool, easygoing. And I was hyped when I saw that he had a music CD. So I went to at H&M, and through their extensive collection of music CDs from all eras, and I went on a hunt in that store downtown Toronto, and amazingly I discovered his music CD. Yeah, it still makes me laugh that I was able to find it. Let's see when it was made, if there's a date on it. 1994. So that was in the year 2000, the fall of 2000, I found this CD, and this was made in 1994. Yeah, cool. Here's a video game. Yeah, these are the most expensive video games, the plane ones, the jet flying games, and they require the most heavy duty computer systems to run them properly. you can't play them without having the best graphic cards or CPUs, lots of memory. This isn't mine. Got some stuff that comes with the mail. In the mail, lots of advertisements were delivered on CDs. Oh, this one came in a cereal box, and Man of War game, Christmas songs, Mark Anthony. Here, this is ripped CDs. This is music, and yeah, these are software I made myself. I mean, not software, CDs I made myself. Got plenty of those, but none of the pirated ones. I changed my tune after failing in university. I figured karma was hitting me back. God was punishing me for stealing all those video games. I never used them, mind you, those video games, that software. But saw one after failing university, dropping out in the first session. First session, I decided to throw my CDs, all the things I downloaded, I pirated, away. It was an easy choice, but it had a big significance. I mean, I spent thousands of hours downloading that stuff, and yeah, it just something I needed to personally do to destroy those CDs, so I could live with myself. I can convince myself that I'm looking for a better future. I'm looking for a future with more opportunities, better, hopeful. I did it so I could convince myself I believe in my future, and I believe in my God, and I'm gonna get rid of this that curses me, so I can move on, go on to better things, even though I'm giving up something really precious, a lot of things that were really precious, and I threw them out. Thousands upon thousands dollars of worth of something just gone to the garbage. And I don't regret it one bit. it out of sight, out of mind, and it left me free, my conscience free, and I developed a principle from that experience not to steal software, a principle that was also self-beneficial, because I became a software developer and I wouldn't want anyone to steal my copyright content. So here I got these self-burnt CDs. I had lots of comfort knowing there was CD technology to store data on. I figured that I could store all my precious data, the things I worked on for many hours, whether software, written material, whatever, and I can just safeguard them on CDs. Unfortunately, that was a false hope. It was not how it works. These CDs, I checked one of them. They are finicky to make in the first place. It's a hit and miss to get data written on them a lot of times. But when I did, after a year, I tried to check on my data and found my data disappeared. The CDs didn't hold on to them. So I did some research to see the durability of CDs. I thought they lasted forever, but to my disappointment, I discovered they only last for a few years max. And how you store them is very important. So maybe the chemicals in the paper, which are just regular printing paper, I stored them in. They leached onto the CDs and destroyed the CDs, the data in the CD. So it was heartbreaking to learn such that I can't rely on CDs to preserve my precious software. And I had to still rely on them, hoping they would keep my data until something better came along. But it was a big disappointment finding that even today there's really no solution to preserving data for an extensive amount of time, except the cloud, some netherworld where the data is preserved forever. Someone else ensures that the data is preserved for you. Who cares how they do it? So that's a big development. Today I prefer micro SD cards. Project Music. This is one of the games I liked. Here too. Visual Basic. My first Microsoft Office was a pirated one. A friend of my brother gave to us, and when he gave us it on CD, but I eventually, when I had a change of mind about pirated software, I destroyed all pirated, never used pirated software again. Here's Fleet Commander, a lot of games, Visual Basic 6, Chemistry, had lots of learning CDs and lots of games. I played a lot at the beginning of the millennia, but soon afterwards I stopped, and I back up all my precious data on CDs just as a secondary precaution. And now the cloud storage has taken over, like I said, and it is the way of the future. I mean, it gets rid of all this physical media for storing data. I recognized in the early 2000s, Microsoft high-profile people were hinting about something big in the future, but I didn't share their vision. They were hinting about the cloud, but I really didn't see the significance of it. At that time, it was said in terms of web services, and I recognize the importance of web services, but I even posted the poster on the wall of my rooms, and this came with really pricey programming software. As you can see, it makes the concept very clear, but there wasn't the cloud at that time yet, but this was a clear prelude to it, and I sort of dismissed it. I didn't recognize how significant it was gonna play into technology in the future. So I hardly gave it any thought. Of course, web services make sense. You know, you provide the tickets to concert. Anyone can make software for purchasing software through or tickets through the tickets on some server somewhere. It can be shows or tickets to events or just information. Web services, like services on the web, makes sense. But and the idea was that software would consume these services, use them to provide the products to the end user. But the cloud was hardly a solid concept at that time, and I didn't get into it much. Its significance to me was elusive until recently, and now I see how important it is for society in the technology space, and its pivotal role in the advancement of society. Like, for example, cloud storage now stores everything in some netherworld: videos, music, information, everything. So you don't have to think about the media it's stored in. It replaces all physical media. You know, who's ever managing the cloud storage takes care of the hassle of maintaining the data, and to you it's just some vast distance space with unlimited storage. Who cares how they mechanically implement it? It doesn't matter to you, but it's a pivotal technology for progressing society. It will facilitate eventually the use of digital currency, and it will make for people to be able to have minimalist lifestyles, and meaning we no longer need so much in our lives, objects such as CDs, video players, all these things that just take up space, and and the secondary things associated with them: cabinets, tables. Everything is stored on the cloud, and even printers. You don't need to mail things anymore. It's very important. The minimalist lifestyle is important for the advancement of society. Not will it only summing the era of digital currency like Bitcoins and those. It will refocus resources and manpower to things that are essential to mankind, such as food and shelter, clothing. It will herald eventually utopia, making those things mostly a right, and it will bring better quality of those essentials, but also refocus efforts on up and coming technology, better lighting. Currently we only experience through artificial lighting about the 10% max of what the natural lighting is brought to us through the sun. Very little. And robotics. So I'm not advocating against consumerism. I'm way pro consumerism. As consumerism creates economic activity, and through that general affluence among the population, and but I am advocating consumerism in a more meaningful way, and jobs shifting to suit the times, as they should always. So those things, and a minimalist lifestyle is just a product of advanced society. It will make for a substantially better standard of living for everyone, that lifestyle. And I must say, I'm hyped up about the minimalist lifestyle becoming a common thing. And who wants to deal with all this mess? It's gonna be exciting. So forward and onward to a better and more enjoyable future. I'll probably keep some of these just for memory's sake. Yeah, my David Soul CD, and maybe some of my expensive software that might have a value in the future. It's like $3,000, $4,000 worth, and Windows operating system CDs. I think those might have some value. come 100 years from now. But whether they can be read or not is another question. But the rest, yeah, I'm gonna give to a Goodwill-like place. So, goodbye, CDs. You served your purpose to mankind, but your time has passed and it's time to move on. I really like that packaging. Came with cool graphics, boxes, booklets. Like over there, they came with posters, occasionally order forms, promotions, sometimes extras like stickers. Sometimes CDs were an accessory at the back of books. You use them alongside with the books, or they contained extra information. Yeah, they were cool while they lasted. Look at this. This is printed in 3D, and it's got engraved words. And over there, there's a shiny. This one is reflects. This too is sticking out. This simple. Yeah, it's they put in a lot of effort into making and selling, promoting these things, marketing these. But yeah, that's the days of past. People born 10 years ago will not encounter these peculiarities of the late 90s and early 2000s, and I'm very okay with that.